The 4 episodes that reviewers saw prior to the release of Marvel's She-Hulk Attorney-at-Law have now all been shown to the public. In other words, only now have we the audience seen what the critics already saw. Only now can the reviews that already came out be fairly assessed, and with 4 out of 9 episodes released, so can the series at large. On Rotten Tomatoes, the critics gave She-Hulk an 88% approval, while the audience score is only 40%, which, as CBR pointed out, is an even lower audience score than what the notoriously bad Inhumans got. Having seen these 4 episodes, I can't help but wonder what on earth the critics saw, because my assessment is that 4 episodes in, She-Hulk is an absolute abomination and some of the worst content Marvel ever released. In this review, I will elaborate on just why that is, and that begins with the series' ideology and message, which breaks immersion and which is also detrimental to not just the character of She-Hulk and Jennifer Walters, but to every legacy character that associates with her. Very early in the production, someone decided that She-Hulk was to be a feminist show and hired both writers, producers, and a director with that in mind. But there's a problem with that. Now, let me begin by saying that I'm not usually one to go off on feminism. In fact, I think this may be the very first time I even used the term in a video. But I am going somewhere with this, so bear with me. The reason why I don't generally use the term feminism is that it means wildly different things to countless different people, and all of them individually take for granted that you will have the same interpretation of the term as them, which would be a feat. Seeing as the term has changed meaning several times over and means several different things to this day. I mean, just consider the desire for equal rights to vote, equal rights to work for corporate overlords, ending a dubious pay gap, all while destroying capitalism altogether. Wanting more time for family, destroying the nuclear family, ending heteronormativity, pushing pronouns and pushing gender fluidity, but protecting female spaces, all fit under the umbrella of feminism. But some of these positions are pretty far apart and even diametrically opposed to one another, so naturally, one feminist may disagree quite vehemently with another about what feminism actually means. Case in point, one group of feminists has a slur for another group of feminists and consider them to be as bad or worse than a certain mustachioed fella who was active in World War II era Germany. That's why I don't use the term feminism as a general thing. I'd rather avoid confusion by describing the attributes relevant to the situation directly. Now, that's all very interesting, you may think, but what does any of it have to do with She-Hulk? Well, here's what. I think that every single woman in the She-Hulk writer's room is a feminist, but I think they are very different kinds of feminists. And they all bring some of their wildly opposing worldviews and philosophies. And this is why the writing is so inconsistent, seemingly changing philosophy at a breakneck pace, not just from one episode to another, but from one scene to the other. The one who suffers the most from this is actually She-Hulk herself. She has no consistent personality and doesn't really come across as a real character, which of course is the price to pay for the character merely serving as a vessel to project the message that the writers want to transmit in each scene. But this wild inconsistency in both character and subtext undercuts some of the messages the writers are trying to transmit. Like when she's dating, she chooses to go with the hottest male feminist she can find, but he ultimately turns out to be the worst man she possibly could go with. But then again, she's the one pursuing him, so that's empowering, I guess? When viewed together, the 4 episodes released thus far simply come across as schizophrenic. The one thing the ladies in the writer's room seem to agree on is misandry. So let's just be honest here and say that. Under the larger feminist umbrella, which doesn't really mean anything, She-Hulk is more specifically a misandric show. It hates men and aims to ridicule and belittle every male character, and in so doing, every male viewer. The misandric undercurrent is expressed already in the series' opening scene and by way of recurring character Dennis Bukowski. He would appear to be an amalgamation of the very worst traits any man the women in the writer's room ever met, plus many men they never met but read about on Twitter or heard about from their friends or something, which has then been exaggerated to a ridiculous degree. The end result is a caricature, one so overblown and over the top that it actually breaks immersion. As everyone with any kind of professional working experience knows that such a person simply couldn't exist in the real world, as he's utterly unemployable. I mean, even with the shoddy CGI, which the showrunners in not so many words have said it is misogynistic of you to point out, accepting She-Hulk as a real flesh-and-blood character is a far smaller ask than going along with that Dennis Bukowski could ever exist, let alone that he's a star attorney working with the DA. It's not just him though. Every man in the series is either an evil catcaller looking to kill any woman who doesn't respond to him at worst, or at best he is simply inept or stupid. With the notable exception of Jen's father, who genuinely loves and cares for his daughter and wants what is best for her. This is most inconsistent and out of character with the portrayal of just about any other male character on the series, and only goes to show that at least one writer must have had a good relationship with her father. But he is the only man that 4 episodes in has escaped unscathed. Literally every other man on screen who isn't outright evil is either an awkward blithering idiot to highlight what the ladies in the writers' room think of the men they accept on Tinder, or something of a fool. And this is true for the legacy Marvel characters as well. Smart Hulk himself was treated as an idiot, and this was deliberate. He was set up to not only show how She-Hulk is the better Hulk, but to mansplain the importance of keeping her anger under control, only so she could snap back and school him and every other man in the audience on how she is great at keeping her anger in check. Because she and every other woman is constantly surrounded by incompetent men who mansplain, catcall, and possibly kill women who reject their advances. That was the writers venting at the audience, telling all male audience members watching to do better, even though few will recognize themselves in any of the behavior put on trial. But it's not just the Hulk. The Abomination was made a hippie sex cult leader, while the opposite was done to Wong. First, he was ridiculed by the writers, in that they made him go to court to retrieve a sling ring from a rogue ex-student rather than simply taking it back. Then they humiliated him even further, turning the Sorcerer Supreme into a safe and platonic, possibly gay bestie the writer's self-insert could hang out with while drinking wine and watching TV at a sleepover. I'm actively dreading what they're going to do with Matt Murdock when he shows up, which we know will happen from both articles, as well as breaking the fourth wall scenes, which needed to be handled very differently. If you like She-Hulk, that's cool, we all have our guilty pleasures. And that's what this is, at best, a guilty pleasure. There are narrative issues which prevents this from being good in any objective sense. But hey, if you liked it, don't let anyone take that away from you. But most ordinary viewers don't enjoy this. Not only that, She-Hulk marks the spot where a lot of professional critics who had previously said every new Phase 4 Marvel movie was the bestest triumph ever at the time of release, suddenly retroactively admitted that Phase 4 kind of sucked. A testament to the series' schizophrenic nature, I guess. Either way, She-Hulk and content like it is not doing Marvel any favors. This is how you turn a billion-dollar brand into a million-dollar brand. Let me know your thoughts on all of this and She-Hulk in the comments.